Questions, please. Yes.
Could you explain why, when one is on a journey, the prayers are shortened, but when one is sick, the prayer is not shortened, whereas a sick person is both sometimes mentally and physically worse off than one who is on the journey.
But in other way, the conditions are relaxed to the extent that a sick person is in some ways even more licensed than a person on a journey. For example, if somebody is sick, to the extent that he is sick, he is relieved of his obligation. And the threshold of his release of his energy determines how he should say the prayer. If he cannot stand, he can sit down, no problem. If he cannot sit down, he can lie down and say the prayer. If he cannot move his limbs, he can say just by the nod of the head. Even if he cannot nod his head, he has to recite the prayer, that is all. If he cannot recite it, in his mind he can ruminate on the prayer, essence of the prayer and so on. So this is a beautiful way of treating the sick. Because with sick you cannot define sharply how far one is sick and to what extent he should be given this license. So according to the standards of the sick, this treatment is completely in accordance with the situation. Yes, please. Well, now.
I'd like to know what effect such a routine has medically on cancer. So what effect is it effective?
Do you belong to the medical profession?
No, I have a lot of doctors and
Right. I'll explain how situation Suchi Bhuti came to be discovered in the first place. There was a very pious, saintly Ahmadi in Sindh who was father to Mr. Basharat Bashir Sindhi, who has been live with Tafsir for some time, now is working in some other department. Now, his wife suffered from cancer of the uterus. And when the doctors told him that there is completely no chance of any recovery whatsoever, and his wife would die within a specified period of say 7 to 10 days, then he concentrated more on prayer, and once at night when he was praying and crying bitterly before Allah, he suddenly saw a vision. And in that vision, Suchi Bhuti appeared before him and talked to him and said, "I am the cure for your wife." After the vision, he went out.
was cancer in those days diagnosed?
Of course, it's not very long ago that I'm talking about. Well, I think about 15 years or 10 years between the two. It was very much diagnosable, and radiation departments were fully active in treatment of cancer everywhere in the world. So not very far away in the recent history. So when that happened, he went out, and the name of this Bhuti in Sindh is something like Damaho or something of that nature. So he went for that, and as he thought best, he started making a portion out of it and started giving the wife 3 times a day, as is the normal practice. So after 10 days, instead of dying, she had recouped so miraculously that the doctors couldn't believe that it was the same patient. So from then, people started learning of this and trying it on other patients. For the first time, in Noor Hospital, which is now Fazl Umar Hospital, this was experimented by my elder brother, Dr. Bildamanogara, on many patients. And the incidence of cure was reasonably high, and they just could not ignore this. So he reported the matter to the United Nations Department of Cancer Research, and they also got some feasibility from us. I don't know how far they have reached in their research. But in Pakistan, we have enough evidence of its usefulness and effectivity. But whether it is useful in all sorts of cancer, this is a debatable point. This has to be investigated further. In my opinion, in the bone cancer, for example, or in throat cancer, or in some other tumors, it's not useful. But the type of tissue which uterus has, or uterus is made of, that generally responds to it. If it cannot cure, it alleviates the disease to a great degree.
So, some curable to 3 fingers.
Fine?
Some curable to 3 fingers. ये 3 चीजों के लिए इलाज है, 3 किस्म के कैंसर का।
3 किस्म के कैंसर का। आपके नजदीक?
नहीं, आपके।
नहीं, मैंने तो ये नहीं कहा। मैंने कहा, as far as I know, it is only useful in one cancer, which the cancer which is similar to the cancer of uterus, and the tissue which is similar to uterus responds to this. I have only said that. As far as other cancers are concerned, I am not sure. At least I was not encouraged by the results. I have also had it used on many patients. One can say that it is quite palliative in most cases. Of cancer, again, of the tissue, like the tissue of uterus, not in bone cancer. In bone cancer, some homeopathic medicines are much better and more effective than this one. Yes, please.
Assalamualaikum.
Yes.
Hazur, there is a hadith that the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, asked a woman to veil herself from a blind man. When she questioned the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, he replied, "He is blind, but you are not." Hazur, can we infer from this that like men are forbidden to see women on video, that women should also not be allowed to see men on video?
Blind was very hard. You know, there is there are some situations where man and woman both have to see each other. But as Hazrat Masih Maud has beautifully explained, ghaflat ki nazar se, with no intent and no desire in the eye, but as necessity, as if the sight is falling upon inanimate objects. For example, when you are walking in the streets, you can't lower your eyes, bumping into each other, and that would be a graver situation than just looking at the face of somebody. So this is what Hazrat Masih Maud has so beautifully described, that you see, sometimes you have to see, but that vision should be ghaflat ki nazar se, as if you're not interested what is happening. The minimum interest should be in that vision or that observation of yours. So that is a must, you can't avoid it. But the situation which you have mentioned was a different situation. If a man is to be invited to a house, that is quite a different thing. It is not necessary that everybody should be permitted to enter the house. And unnecessarily, you should not put people in a situation of trial. Now, for Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radhiyallahu ta'ala anha, there was no question of a trial, of course. But there are sometimes some blind men who are very attractive in features, in appearance, And there are some blind eyes which are whole to look at, but the vision is wrong within. Something is wrong with the optic nerve, for example. So such people may appear attractive. If the ladies say they can't see us and they invite us to their homes, and by their voices, attraction of their voices, they get interested, and by their personal charm, I mean those of the men, ladies become interested, so it's a situation of trial, unnecessary. So that is what Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam discouraged. A message through Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa to the rest of the ladies.
Assalamualaikum. So please can you explain, when you are travelling you say half of your namaz, but when a person is seriously ill, he has to read full namaz.
That is exactly the question which I have just answered. That was the first one. Are you brothers and sisters? No. I thought at home you consulted each other about this question. No. The first question was exactly the question you have just now asked. And the answer to that question is the same as to yours. Yes, please.
Zur, I have read Hazrat Chaudhry Zafrullah Khan Sahib's book, Tahir, and I have come to the conclusion that Chaudhry Sahib was acting under the direction of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Sani, and all the groundwork for Pakistan was done by him. And
not all the groundwork, I mean, we shouldn't exaggerate it to that extent. Some very useful suggestions were made by others, but the groundwork was mainly done by Qaeda.
But
yes,
at one time, Qaeda gave up.
that's correct.
And it is my opinion now.
Then it was wrong.
Yes.
By Hazrat Khalifatul Masih and
Yes.
yes, Rasulullah Khan did not play an instrumental role. In fact, it was the London Mosque and the Imam of
Yes.
the London Mosque,
Yes.
the other side, who played a very important and instrumental role in that. So, what is the question now?
I got the impression that if there was no Ahmadiyya, there would have been no Pakistan.
Well, that might be true. And so, if there had been no Hinduism, there might not have been Pakistan.
It may be. Yes, it may be. Yes.
It might not have been Pakistan.
You see, I am
All
saying.
statements are correct.
Right. Hazur, I am saying this, what is happening to us in Pakistan, in that consideration that we people were responsible for so much in creating the
But that crime means responsible, you are saying as if that was a crime committed by us.
No, not in this as such, but we are the people.
We were mostly instrumental in the creation of Pakistan. This is correct.
Right, so I got the right impression by
This
reading
is
it.
correct. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
The thing which you did not come to and all the time was waiting for was this, that we are at least equal partners in the creation of Pakistan, and no power on earth has any right, any justification to relegate to us a second-class citizenship or a third-class citizenship. That's against the contract. There are certain contracts, there are unwritten contracts. If you 2 or 3 people go together to make a thing, to make a firm, they have equal rights unless that thing is taken apart. Their rights cannot be trampled upon by the other parties, even if they enjoy a majority. In this case, exactly the opposite is happening. The worst enemies of Pakistan, among them those who said Qaid-e-Azam is a Kafir-e-Azam. Among them are those who said पाकिस्तान की पे भी कोई नहीं बना सकता. किसी माँ ने ऐसा मेरे से एहराम नहीं सेट है, किसी माँ ने ऐसा बच्चा नहीं जना जो पाकिस्तान की पे भी बना सके. No mother has given birth to a son who can even write or create the P of Pakistan. That was said by the Iraqi leaders. And the Jamaat-e-Islami people said it would be a Kafiristan and not a Pakistan. And Maulana Maududi said that India's undivided India with a Hindu Raj would be much better than a Pakistan with Muslim Raj. Because 9,000, in other place he gives, expands the argument and says 9,999 out of every 10,000 people who are supposed to be Muslims are not Muslims, in fact. They are worse than Kafirs. They are a directionless lot without bearing, without any knowledge of Islam, and without practicing it. So, are they the people who are going to create Pakistan, and is it for their sake that the Pakistan is to be created? That was the logic behind this. So, they have become now the first-rate citizens of Pakistan, as they think. And they have been imposed on the rest of the people against their will and against their wish. And the true friends of Pakistan who work honestly and hardly and diligently and offer great sacrifices for the cause of Pakistan, they are now being declared as third-rate citizens. So that is the tragedy and irony of the situation. Yes, please. Dr. Mujibul Haq Sahib.
There have been prophecies by the Holy Prophet ﷺ for the steam age. There are some similitudes given as steam engine and the jar, etc. Is there any prophecy about the present age of invisible energy, like laser and microwaves and things like that, in Quran or in Hadith?
Of course, there is very clear, and I should have remembered it, that I delivered a full sermon on this subject a few months ago, maybe 2-3 months ago, on atomic bomb having been mentioned in the Holy Quran. Didn't you read that? Or has it not been published yet, perhaps?
It has come out, sir.
3rd
of February.
It is published.
The tafsir of Surah Hamazah.
It
It was printed in Al-Fazl.
It was also, I think, translated by Jayanwaran Satkano, who is very efficient in these translations, and published in English as well. So you go through that, and there is enough proof, positive proof, that the Holy Quran not only declared the phenomena of hidden energy, but also developed the theme to the construction of Pakistan and ultimate destruction of the world. In that small surah, all that has been mentioned. Yes, please.
My question is, if an Ahmadi Muslim dies in an anti-Muslim society or in a country where there is no more Ahmadi to offer his janazah prayer, what is the teaching of Islam regarding this?
Where there is no Muslim, what the teaching of Islam is going to do there? If there is anti-Islamic society, the teaching of Islam will have no bearing upon them, no influence. So there is no point. He would be naturally buried according to the customs of that non-Muslim to non-Muslim society. And as far as the forgiveness is concerned, it has completely no relationship to the fact that janazah was said or not. Those who are burned, those who are drowned in the ocean, their janazahs are not said, and they are forgiven by Allah, if Allah pleases. So that is for our own satisfaction, that we say the janazah. And we pray, and it's an expression of grief, in fact, in a formal way. But as far as the dead body or his soul is concerned, he or she are completely in Allah's hands. Yes, please. Zahir? One song.
Two verses in the Holy Quran. Inna Allaha ya'murukum bil-'adli wal-ihsani wa ita'i dhil-qurba. And the second verse is that Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tattakhidhu al-yahuda wan-nasara awliya. My question is that when we deal with the Pakistani ulama or people who are taking active part in present persecution, which of these two verses should regulate our behavior? Or can we apply both?
Are in accordance with each other. Completely according to each other. They don't stand at odds with each other at all. So there is no question of which. Other requires an equal treatment to the person. If somebody transgresses, you have a right to transgress against him to the extent that he has transgressed against you. So the second verse is under other, not against it.
We see that before the Holy Prophet of Islam, all those Anbiya and Sahaba are national prophets, and they were restricted. In the Holy Quran, it says that God sent Moses to Pharaoh. It also says from Musa that he has been sent as a Rasul from Rasul Alameen. So, could their message not be for all the people who are there?
What does it say about Moses?
Well, it says in the Holy Quran that he has been Rasul from Rabbul Alameen.
From Rabbul Alameen, not to Alameen. They are two different things. Every Rasul was sent by Rabbul Alameen, but not to the Alameen. The only Rasul who is known to have been sent to the whole universe or the known universe. In fact, the word Alameen is very difficult to translate in one single word of English. It has a very broad meaning and the philosophy should be understood. Alam means the thing about which you know or which is known. All those things which exist but are not known, they don't become alam. They may be ashya, but they are not alam. Alam must require an alim, a person to know. So in that definition of alam, if all consciousness disappears from the universe, the whole alam would collapse. There won't be any alam. As far as people other than, being other than Allah are concerned, there will be nothingness. So alam goes on expanding as well. And Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was rahmatul lil alameen. That meant that whatever is now being discovered, the expanding universe of man's knowledge, for all that Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would be a source of blessing. This has never been said about any other prophet, even by the books of those religions to whom that prophet belongs. There is no exception whatsoever. I have made an investigation into this matter because I have read on comparative religions. Not entirely, I have not exhausted the subject, of course, no man can. But I read all the important books on this subject and also the fundamental books of those religions. And never anywhere was a mention of a prophet being a prophet of the alam. So I accept Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is the meaning, but to be from Rabbul Alameen, that is a different thing altogether.
My question was slightly, perhaps I heard it misunderstood. My question was, the restriction was only geographic, not on national basis. The prophet was in an area, he could be for Israelite as well as the other people present. Would not this be the case?
You still have not made your question clear, please. I will wait for you until you have made it clear.
If a prophet, before Holy Prophet Islam, he came to the world.
Shall we resort to Urdu? Maybe we understand it better in that language. परवाह उर्दू में बात करें, बताएं क्या करें।
मेरा कहने का मकसद ये था कि अगर कोई प्रॉफिट एक एरिया में आता है तो वो जैसे कि इसराइल में बहुत से नबी अलैहिस्सलाम आए, तो क्या वो सिर्फ इसराइलियों के साथ
इसराइल एरिया में है?
नहीं, यानी
इसराइल तो बनी इसराइल तो हज़रत याकूब का नाम है और बनी इसराइल असल है मुरादा।
तो क्या वो दूसरे लोग जो वहाँ इनहेबिट कर रहे थे उस इलाके में, क्या उनकी तरफ उनका मैसेज
हाँ हो जाता था। हाँ ये बात ठीक है, मैं समझ लूँगा। This is a very important question, and sometimes some Ahmadis during their discussions with non-Muslims take a very stiff attitude that if somebody is sent to Israelites, he cannot address others and others cannot benefit from his message. This is wrong. It is proved by the Holy Quran that if a prophet is addressing a certain people, although the main address is to those people, yet others living in those areas can profit from that message, and they will not be denied that. For example, the Holy Quran in Surah Mu'minun tells us that a man from Pharaoh's people, Qawm Pharaoh, accepted Moses and believed in him. He didn't belong to Israelites at all. The Holy Quran clearly mentions that he belonged to the people of Pharaoh and he believed in him, but he did not have the courage to declare his faith, so he kept it secret. But when the time came, when they were planning to murder Hazrat Moses, then he spoke, and spoke very wisely in favor of Hazrat Moses, and told them to behave logically and should not be cruel to Moses while they are not, Allah does not permit them to interfere in such matters. That was the theme of the protest. What he said actually was this: are you going to murder somebody just for the fact that he claims that he is from Allah? He says, in tako kaziban fa alayhi kizbu wa in yako sadiqan yusibkum ba'dul ladhi ya'idukum in yako kaziban fa alayhi kizbu. Why don't you realize the fact that if he is a liar, Allah has not said anything to him, you will not suffer for his lies. It is he who will be under wrath from Allah. So you have no reason to oppose him. For you it is to be quiet and just if you don't want to believe, you don't. But to oppose him is not your job. Because why? There is no reason why you should oppose such a man who claims to be from Allah. If he is telling lies against Allah, why should Allah throw his wrath upon you? It is he who will be destroyed by Allah himself. But if he happens to be right and truthful, yusibkum ba'dul ladhi ya'idukum, then some of what he has been threatening you with will definitely overtake you and you will be destroyed. So if you keep quiet and aloof, that is the best policy if somebody has claimed to be a prophet. This is the wonderful wisdom, of a jewel of wisdom which he presented to the people who were planning murder of Hazrat Moses. And it still holds good, that philosophy. If anybody claims to be from Allah, only Allah knows whether he did say anything to him or not, because Allah never concerned the ulama of the time about his revelations to his people. He was his servant and nobody is intervening between. So nobody can find out, obviously. It is some private conversation or the lack of his private conversation on both these issues. no modern technological aids can find out whether Allah did speak to anybody or did not. So when you are totally ignorant and entirely incapable of finding out the truth, the wisest policy for you is either to believe or not to believe, but not to interfere. That is what was said by that man. And again, if you interfere, you run the risk of total destruction. But if you don't interfere, you don't run any risk. This is a complete argument put forward by him. But anyway, that was not the point. The point raised by you, I hope, is answered. Despite the fact that Hazrat Moses addressed the Israelites, a non-Israelite is known to have accepted him and believed him by the Holy Quranic story. Please. Assalamualaikum. Yes?
So this question is on behalf of another lady. She asks, if a person is honoured with his janazah prayer being performed by a prophet or Khalifatul Masih, could we assume that he will go to heaven?
No. No guarantee. On this earth, there is no guarantee for anybody to go to heaven, because there was no guarantee even vis-a-vis Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the Holy Quran mentions it clearly. When Holy Quran forbade Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to say the janazah of munafiqeen, and it said, Allah told him that if you do istighfar for them, ask forgiveness for them 70 times, even then Allah will not forgive. And Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is known to have said that if I knew that Allah would forgive them, if I said it 71 times, I would do it 71 times or more than that. But that was a categorical denial on the part of Allah that there are certain diseased people, bitter enemies of yours, whom even if you crave pardon for them, I am not going to pardon them. So if Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says their janazah and they are not to be pardoned, who is the Khalifa as compared to Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam?
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum.
Hazur, if a man dies while performing Hajj or Umrah, does he go to heaven?
After performing
Hajj or Umrah?
or before?
No.
During the performance. Allah knows best. There are so many people whose Hajj is positively known to have not been accepted by Allah. For example, when Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was prevented from performing his Hajj, as far as the rest of the world went, the Hajj went on, and people went and performed Hajj. And this is a positive conclusion you can make with all surety, that during that time when Hazur Akram sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was prevented from Hajj of no person on earth was accepted by Allah. So Hajj in itself is not a sure instrument. Only it's Allah's mercy which is going to save you, and that is going to ultimately be decisive for the pardon of man. Yes, please, Bashir Sahab. And then your son afterwards. Rafiq also wants to ask a question.
The Holy Quran tells us that Hazrat Adam alayhi salam was sent out of the heaven for eating from the forbidden tree.
Yes.
Could Hazur please tell us whether this heaven was on this earth or elsewhere?
It was on this earth and it remains on this earth even today. The fact is that heaven which has been described by the Holy Quran, that heaven is, in other words, Sharia, or the laws of Allah. Whoever breaks those laws eats from the forbidden tree. That is the symbolic message of that incident that parable which has been disclosed, related in the Holy Quran. It's a symbolic language and not a real garden, and for that the Holy Quran itself furnishes proof. You don't have to help the Holy Quran in any way. You cannot, in fact. It's always the Holy Quran which independently helps itself and makes its meaning manifest and clear. The Holy Quran mentions two trees in other places. Kalimatun tayyib, kalimatun tayyib, masalu kalimatin tayyibatin ka shajaratin tayyibatin asluha sabitun wa farruha fis samai toti ukulaha min kulli hinin bi'izni rabbiha. That is a tree mentioned. And what is that tree? Kalima. Masalu kalimatin ka shajaratin. So it shows that that tree which was mentioned in reference to Hazrat Adam's Jannah, that was also a kalima from God. But kalimatin tayyibatin. And kalima also encompasses a wide field of meaning like human beings. Human beings are also kalima. Because Hazrat Isa is known to have been mentioned in the Holy Quran as Kalimatullah. So he was not kalam in that sense. So kalima also applies to human beings. So Allah says there are two types of teachings and two types of human beings. Both are covered by this word. And they are like trees. Shajaratin tayyibatin is the tree, if you eat the fruit thereof, then you will rise to such heights that your roots would be firmly established, yet your branches would be talking with heaven. And they will receive their fruit from Allah. Whatever happens to the rest of the world, there will not be any autumn as far as this tree is concerned. It will continue to bear fruit, the heavenly fruit of course. And masalu shajaratin khabisatin, masalu kalimatin khabisatin ka shajaratin khabisatin nishtussat min fawqil ardi ma laha min qaraar. Similarly, there are trees which are bad and rotten. How do you translate the word khabisa? Corrupt trees. And there are corrupt words or the corrupt teachings, and also those corrupt teachings create corrupt men. Kalimatul khabisa means that. And they are similar to shajaratin khabisa. So the word shajara has been explained in the Holy Quran itself. It says there are trees which are symbolic of good teachings, and there are trees which are symbolic of bad teachings, and there are people who are symbolic of those trees as if they had eaten fruit thereof and had become bad. So because the Holy Quran says وَلَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ أَزْمًا, in case of Hazrat Adam, despite the fact that he had committed that mistake, we didn't find it an intentional and conscious mistake. لَمْ نَجِدْ لَهُ أَزْمًا. So we forgave him. And he was returned to that Jannah from which the whole people had been turned out after that forgiveness. But for the rest, there was, a punishment in the form of suffering from the fruits of their deviation from the words of Allah. Now, this is further proved by another verse from the Holy Quran, where the Holy Quran warns the followers of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam and tells them that, look here, Shaitan should not play the same trick upon you as he played upon Adam and turned him out of Jannah. If that Jannah belonged to some heavenly space and it was not on earth, And Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam's followers belong to this earth and not to that Jannah. How could Shaitan play the same trick over again? It was physically, mathematically impossible. So that shows that Jannah was something different. And by that Jannah we can only infer from what I have quoted from the verses of the Holy Quran, that good teachings or righteous teachings that have been revealed by Allah, they are the Jannah. And the bad teachings or corrupt teachings which oppose such teachings are hell or earthly things where one is rejected and he becomes a man of the earth, we can say that, or man of profanity. So this is the meaning of that verse, which relates to Arun's story of Jannah and his people having been turned out of Jannah.